Nicky Bomba, welcome back to Australian Musician.
Yep, thank you. Thanks for inviting us to this to your world.
I want to know about your earliest musical memories growing up. Was there much music in the house?
It was actually how it shaped me a lot. My earliest musical memories was me on a drum kit when everyone had gone to school. I still was at home, and not being able to reach the pedal, and then my brother playing the keyboards, and there was a drum kit there, and it was an old John Gray kit, silver with pigskin, and that was my earliest musical memory. My first performance memory was my mum used to mind children, and we used to have this rocking horse. I used to go backwards and forwards, and one day I went backwards on it, and the children just broke out in this serious laughter. It was just like, and I thought, that caused that reaction. So by myself, I was able to, and it was the first time that there was a thing of like, if I do this, it has that reaction. And then I did it again, and it was like, okay, cool. So there's the audience and there's the entertainer. I remember that kind of in the backyard, and after a while, it was just I just did too many times and hurt my head too many times, so I stopped.
Yeah. So when was the first time you got paid to do that?
Well, my first proper wage was when I was 16, when I turned professional. But before that, we used to play in the family dance band, which was like the Jackson 5 of the Maltese community, really was, for Partridge family. So we used to play church on Sundays and do gigs, but we never actually got paid. But we used to go into a bit of an account. And I think when I was 14, after all those years of playing from the age of 6 or 7, there was $600 in the account. Now, we could probably take him to the small claims tribunal if it was these days, but that was the moment when that work I did was that. I didn't expect anything, obviously, and it was only like 14 at the time. And I didn't ever think it was actually going to ever be a thing of making a living. So I started, getting into electronics and everything. But then at 16, there was the possibility to go on the road, and it's like, this I can actually do this, and that was a change in my life then.
Your first band was a cover band, Fugitive Flight?
First band was it was before that. It was actually called The Fugitives, and only because when Dad bought the drum kit, it had The Fugitives on the drum skin name, and so Dad thought, if you get the drums, you get the name. And of course, this was a band from Sydney that actually did the theme song to The Box or something. Remember or one of those shows. So The Fugitives was the name of the band, and we played not your normal covers. We used to play for all the Maltese dancers. So we learned tunes like Harlem Nocturne, which are classic jazz tunes. Green Eyes, Autumn Leaves, and at the time they were kind of considered daggy, but that's what that audience was required. We had to do foxtrots and barn dances. What you would normally do for a ball, you'd have dinner music, and then lighter music in between the entree and the main meal, for people to dance, and then you'd have the rock and roll and everything, and then we used to do a floor show as well. So it was a cover band, but not top 40. That kind of came later, and that was another essence of cutting my teeth, was being in a top 40 kind of cover band.
Yeah. Then came The Truth with Tony Clapper and
Jeff
Wells.
There was many bands in between that.
Yeah.
There was between Fugitives, there was Guided Tour, which is an original band. We tried to get a deal. There was Major Minor, where I started playing bass. And these were all kind of interim things of learning how to play an instrument, and also learning how to operate a studio. Because I remember at one particular point where the engineer just didn't turn up, 3 or 4 times, and went, I was going to learn how to do this. I bought an 8-track, and so this was all leading up to The Truth. Was actually the first proper recording I ever made on my studio, in my garage, and that was obviously a beautiful, pivotal time, of where it kicked into this other dimension of the original bands and touring and big concerts and a record deal.
96, you joined the Ross Hannaford Trio.
Yeah, well,
What are your memories of Hannah?
well, it's. I mean, I've still got a massive connection with him. He's still. I communicate with him. You know, he passed when he was 66 years old. I remember the first time playing with him, where it was just like, wow, this is actually. I'm getting tingles on the back of my neck playing with this, and I thought, I have to record this man. It was like, and I just set up the studio too, and actually that Ross Hannaford Trio came out 3 weeks before the Truth recording came out. So because I remember I took it to Mushroom and said, look, I've done this recording with Ross. It's beautiful. It's evergreen, and they said, no, we'll release it. And so I remember him giving him the CD while we're on tour with the Truth. Now Ross is a guru. He was a channeler. And I've actually just started a new label called Transmitter, and the Ross Hannaford Trio vinyl is going to be our first release on that, and I've just got all the clearance for it just recently. So I still think it's an evergreen album. So many musicians, you know, come to me and go, "Oh, that album is just gold." You know, it really captures Ross. Yeah, so he's a big part of my, especially when it comes to guitar. I try to channel him all the time.
Yeah, Banana Oil was a favourite band of mine. I played that CD to death.
Well, that was the second album we did after Ross Hannaford Trio. Right, so my studio was kind of, you know, mud brick and everything, and I learned the craft, so I knew kind of how to capture things, you know, and keeping it simple as well. And this was all on tape too, 8-track tape. Banana Oil we had a Wednesday night residency at a place called the 120 Club, and again, it was like, this is good. Let's record this. Let's have a couple of, you know, weekends where we get together and just capture stuff. And we had 2 or 3 sessions, and obviously Tim Neal with the Hammond organ, which was the really the essence of it, and then Andy Baylor on guitar, which is, you know, just he's another guru like Ross, and I was on the kit. David Williamson on a saxophone, and we apart from doing a couple of covers, we said let's do a couple of explorations. I had a song called My Family, which, you know, we performed with the band. I didn't think was kind of much chop at the time, and then it ended up winning an APRA award for the most played song in 1998. I remember taking my children to school on Triple J, and they'd be playing this R&B jazz tune on Triple J. It was like, I just don't know anymore. I'm happy with that, you know. So yeah, and there was a lesson in sometimes you just don't know. They're just things. The chemistry of something comes together, and the zeitgeist kicks in.
Yeah, there are so many bands you've been involved with, so I'm just cherry picking here.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
2005 Limestone album with Joe Camilleri, couple of Maltese kids.
Yeah, the Maltese gig. That's it. You know, we now Joe. What I love about Joe is that when I first released my first kind of original album with the band, it was called this other band actually, which ended up being Bomba, but it was called The Overtones, and we released a song called Hail That Taxi, which is a classic kind of rock steady thing. Now Joe rang me up, he heard it on the radio, and he rang me up. He said, "Nick, I've got to tell you, that track is so good and everything." It was like, wow, it's great to get this encouragement. We knew each other, but not that deeply. And from that point on, we became, you know, really good friends. I recorded on the Revelators album with him, and then we had so much fun in the studio. We said, let's do an album, you know. And we wrote Limestone about Malta, and we wrote that in 5 minutes. That came together. It was so easy. So let's reference all the stuff that we know, you know. And I have a big admiration for Joe. We started my label together, and he was also responsible for when I bought my house. He was one of the owners, and then I bought him out. So we were that kind of close, and still am. We just did a track recently with a Taylor Swift cover, and so he's a big inspiration. I like how he keeps reinventing himself, but I love how he loves music, and how he gets energized about it, like I do. You know, that it's something, you know, visceral that really excites us, you know, and we both have that. And being Maltese, he's such a fun. He should be a stand-up comedian. He's hilarious, that guy. I've never laughed so much in the studio ever. You know, amazing.
You played with the John Butler Trio, playing all over the world.
Yeah,
with those guys.
That was amazing. That was really. I wanted to do a gig where I played drums, but I didn't want to set up the drum kit. But I wanted to do it on a big level, and it was kind of national, international touring. I always kind of wanted to do that at some point in my life, and so it was serendipitous, where John, who was going out with my sister, ended up marrying her, And he was really getting into reggae at the time, and the rock roots reggae, the especially the Wailers, the trio, and the Jimi Hendrix Experience, and all the power trios, the Cream, and so we started conversing about that. And I was playing in a band called Double Dub at the time, doing a lot of reggae and dub stuff. And he saw me play with that too, and so we started the conversation. And then at some point he goes, "I'm ready to make the album," and that's when we did Sunrise Over Sea, and then we also did April Uprising together and Flesh and Blood. But Sunrise Over Sea was a real kind of kick into, like Zebra example was a rock reggae beautiful combination. And the word zebra comes from a joke about the zebra. Is it a black horse with a white stripes, or is it a white horse with black stripes? And Zebra, that came out because it was Zep as in Zeppelin, and Ra as in Raga. So we put Zebra, that's how it started. And then he said, "Oh, Zebra." I said, "No, I was kind of said Zebra, but let's go Zebra." And then he wrote the lyrics kind of, and based on that. And the song is, I could be a rich man, I could be poor. It's a whole juxtaposition of life and the duality. And that was amazing. I loved getting into that world, and I loved that he wanted to explore that. And we're still best of mates, and obviously he's my brother-in-law. But we're all off kind of very similar entities. We're all off doing our own different things and constantly expanding. And a big love for John, and he's a trooper, yeah.
Your love of mento music, you're into musicians like Prince Buster and Desmond Dekker, Bob Marley. Have you made the pilgrimage to Jamaica?
Oh, many times. Yeah. I've been about 5 or 6 times. I have a little room there in a little place called Christiana. I was adopted by this family. It was the first time I went there on a real proper pilgrimage. I went there with my guitar, and in the first 24 hours, I was recording in the studio, just simply by the serendipitous events. And then it's amazing when you talk about mento. So we'll backtrack a little bit by saying I first heard mento properly when I was giving a speech about touring in Australia at the Womex Expo in Germany. And after I gave the speech, I went walking around, and I heard this music that kind of sounded vaguely familiar, and I kind of getting closer, and I walked into this room, and there's this old guy playing shakers, there's guitarists, there's someone playing a rumba box, and a banjo, and this music which was very similar in some ways to the traditional music of Malta, which where I was born. It was very fluid, it was very comical, it was cheeky, a little bit bawdy, but kind of energizing at the same time, and a great rhythm. And I sat there and watched him for a while, and that was a guy called Stanley Beckford. And Stanley Beckford is like the kind of grandfather of mento. Now mento is the traditional music of Jamaica as opposed to calypso, which is more Trinidad. So mento, he was kind of the father of that. And so I really got into what he was doing, and to the point that when I got back to Australia, I rang up my bass player Barry and said, let's start a band. And it's to mento. He said, well, let's what about with the stuff, Prince Buster, kind of early Prince Buster stuff and everything. And we thought, oh yeah, Buster, mento, Bustamento. I said, hang on a second, Alexander Bustamante was the first Prime Minister of Jamaica. A Bustamento in Malta is a boat. And so we went Bustamento. It's like Prince Buster, and it was obvious. So that came together, and that band, still to this day, is still my, I would say, my number one main source of income. It's such a fluid band that can work in so many different, as opposed to the Melbourne Ska Orchestra, which is so the Melbourne Ska Orchestra is the cruise liner, the Bustamento is the speedboat, and Nicky Bomba solo is the jet ski.
Yeah. 21 years ago, you formed the Melbourne Ska Orchestra. What was the goal?
At that particular time, it was just simply to play tribute and offer celebration to ska. And why 2003? Because that was the 40th anniversary of when the bona fide hit called My Boy Lollipop by Millie Small hit the planet. Also, Bob Marley and the Wailers recorded Simmer Down, which was like 63, 64. So there was a pivotal year in the world of ska and Jamaican music on the planet. So 40 years later at the Gershon Room, we just wanted to do a bit of a tribute. We put the word out, thinking it was going to be like a small event. We were inundated with how many people wanted to join the band. we said this ain't a band, this is an orchestra. So we monitored Melbourne Ska Orchestra. Huge night, turned about 300 people away, and there was a magic electric feeling in the room. And after that we thought, hence the song last year called Something Strong, we said we felt we had something strong here. And we just did it every year for a while, and then I bought the name off Mohair Slim because we actually started the band together, and he was too busy, so I kind of and then from there I took it up to another level. We got Bluesfest, we got a recording contract, and then from there it's 11 albums, 2 ARIA awards, and 21 years.
Anywhere between 20 and 30 members at any one time.
Well, I mean,
in the band.
If it's in Melbourne, you're hitting 30. If it's touring, it's usually around 20. That's around Australia. If we tour overseas, there's always that amount of people on stage, but sometimes we have to get other people to fill in the gaps. Like we're going to Mexico this year, we'll take over about 13 or 14 and pick up another 5 or 6 over there. But yeah, it's incredible to be that on stage with that many people. It's mind blowing. It's on paper, it doesn't work, but something has happened with this one. Some kind of chemistry, some kind of love and energy for the fact that we started the band out of love. That there was no altruistic kind of, any other meaning behind what we were doing except for the love of the music and the celebration of it. And I think that's been the essence of why the band's existed for so long. You can't have an ego in this band. You really can't. And everyone gets that.
Tell me about the orchestra.
The orchestra is this amazing, beautiful beast that, I had no idea that it was going to ever flower into something so magnificent. But the beautiful thing about it is that the members of the orchestra, there's so much of beautiful brain trust there. There's, so many walks of life, so many languages, and the more I play in the band, the more I really appreciate the members and what they bring to the to the orchestra. John Wayne is a perfect example where Patrick Cronin, who's an amazing whistler, and he toured the world doing a Marconi experience. So Sally has sung in a band called Texicali Rose and the Patachi Playboys for so long. So we're bringing all these beautiful elements and finding those into the band. Some great soloists, great songwriters. I feel privileged and honoured to be in a band that's got such a big love for music, but so much talent as well too. It's there's so much more we can do.
At the time we're doing this interview, you're rehearsing. By the time people see this, you'll be halfway through the tour. How are you approaching the set list?
I see the set list, the connection with the crowd, as very much a journey that we take a crowd through. There are so many different dynamics within the range of the orchestra repertoire that you want to, first of all, pay tribute to traditional ska, which is the classic kind of ska tunes and ska swing. You've got your two-tone, your stuff like the Madness and the Specials, and songs like that are in that vein. And then you've got all the hybrid stuff, which is what the Melbourne Ska Orchestra is about. I see the Melbourne Ska Orchestra as the fourth wave of ska, as being international ska. So we do cumbia ska, funk ska, rock ska, Latin ska, swing ska, jazz. So we try to incorporate, because Melbourne is a beautiful multicultural mix, and we try to reflect that. And so it's all the colours of the rainbow, and we take you on a journey. We lift you up, we bring you down, we make you smile, and the idea is you walk out of that venue with a smile on your face and feeling elevated and energised. That's our role. Yeah.
The new single is John Wayne. What's your fascination with TV and movie themes?
Well, it's separate things there actually. TV and movie themes, as far as ska is concerned, it's quite a common thing in the ska genre for bands to do instrumentals of famous movie themes. The Guns of Navarone was a classic one. That was one of the first ones that came out. There was not Dr. Zhivago, James Bond, Pink Panther. These have been done with ska quite often in the early days. So when we wanted to do TV and movie themes, we did Get Smart, Flintstones. We also did Pink Panther and James Bond, but then we also did Curb Your Enthusiasm and Family Guy. and Narcos. So we kind of brought it into the the 2000s. So that's one thing. So that's always been a thing in ska, and we wanted to pay tribute to that. John Wayne is a separate thing. It's more about how they came together. Was kind of had nothing to do with that. It was a zeitgeist thing that I actually can't even tell you why I even come up with the title, but I know that for 6 months, every second lyric in every song that I was writing had the words John Wayne in there, and I have no idea why. So I had to kind of pay tribute to that. And then I wrote the song for the orchestra, with the orchestra in mind. There was actually 6 different versions, 6 different songs with the word John Wayne in it, and I went, okay, this one suits the orchestra the best. And then I had to go, well, what's this song about? What does John Wayne mean to me, you know? And if you want me to elaborate on that, I can. It was very much about tapping into how empathy and sympathy for the American gun culture, which is has really taken it to the point where, you know, it's not valid anymore. The John Wayne macho, you know, gun-toting outlaw was, you know, for the 50s when you were growing up, and, you know, it was kind of the thing he did. The first ever Super 8 film my dad ever did for the family was we were pretending to be cowboys, you know, so it was very much part of that vibe at the time. Then, you know, fast forward to 2024, and there's still that, in the States especially, that gun culture is so still heavily prevalent, still damaging. And when I toured there, I was quite surprised at how easy it was me just to go up and buy a pistol at 25% discount next to the fluffy toys for the children, you know, in Walmart, and seeing open carry, you know, was confronting for me. That, you know, just people are erratic, you know, just all of a sudden, bang, you know, so it can be that. So that song addresses that and sort of says to John Wayne, or the character of John Wayne, or whoever perpetuated that character, was like, it's sort of because like John Wayne, like, you know, it's that's where it's coming from. But I love the States. I grew up, you know, when I was growing up, you heard someone speak with an American accent, and it was exotic. And the music and the jazz and the funk and so much fantastic things that came out of there. So it was like, you know, what doesn't have, why is that being adopted? Why is that being even championed? You know, and so that was what the John Wayne thing about. And also, ska has always been has one foot in political comment and social comment, especially bands like the Specials and Toots and the Maytals and even the early stuff, and Prince Buster. A lot of the songs, they said things that you couldn't say in public. You know, so we wanted to kind of contain that as well. And one other string to that particular bow is that the John Wayne character, the cowboy character, was adopted by reggae. The most famous film in Jamaica is called The Harder They Come, about a gun-toting outlaw. So, and there's many albums which were dedicated to that, the artwork, the rude boy, which is basically a modern-day cowboy. So it kind of all made sense. It kind of, you know, we kind of tied that together, you know. So yeah, it came together quite quickly, and that's why it kind of was like obvious that was going to be the single.
Yeah. What are you most proud of in your music career?
I think I'm most proud of the fact that I'm able to make a living from music, totally, and understanding that it's not just one sort of skill. You know, like I have to have a skill set of running a studio, being a composer, being a drummer and a session player, being a producer, and a manager sometimes. But I don't like the social media or the admin world at all, and I've now set up a team that takes care of that. And that costs money to do that. You know, so that, and I think understanding that and gaining that wisdom to be able to go that stop being the control freak, which I easily, happily say that I was for many years, and finding more time to write. But I think that still at my age, and I'm still I'm proud of the fact that I still feel like a child, and I'm still scratching the surface at what else I can explore. But certainly, making a living, making music is there's many gigs and everything, but I think that all comes under that particular banner where I'm able to sustain this lifeboat purely by music and by the energy that I give to it.
Nicky Bomba, thanks for your time.
Hey, thank you.